Hey, this is Dr. Cody Sype with the Functional Aging Institute. I've been trained in what you might call gerokinesiology, and that is kinesiology or exercise for older adults. And as part of my training, I really learned a lot about the field of gerontology and have covered a lot of gerontological concepts and theories and philosophies and looked at the aging process very holistically. This has really helped me to understand this growing group of boomers, and I think it can help you as well. So today we are going to cover some key concepts of wellness that will help you to become a trainer that focuses on the whole person, because this is a key aspect, a critical piece to really connecting with this population. There are a number of different wellness models that have been used and endorsed that are out there that include anywhere from 5 to 10 or even 12 dimensions of wellness. But we're really going to focus on kind of the core dimensions that we see in most models. The first dimension is the physical dimension. So of course we are very familiar with this. Being in the fitness profession, exercise, an active lifestyle is a huge piece of how someone ages, right? And how well they're going to age. Nutrition, supplements, health conditions they might have, other lifestyle behaviors, even the quality of sleep. These are all physical aspects of a person. But although we are definitely experts in kind of this area, we really want to think about the other areas and how we can understand people in these other areas as they get older and what they're going through, because aging is not just a physical process. It is definitely a process that affects people emotionally and spiritually, mentally, and all these other areas. So the physical dimension obviously is a big one that we want to focus on. But let's also look at some of the other dimensions. So the cognitive or the mental dimension. One of the biggest fears that this group has is developing dementia, especially Alzheimer's. It is a big fear. The rates of Alzheimer's, the number of people that have it is going up, and that scares a lot of people. People in surveys say that they would rather die than have to live with Alzheimer's and not be able to recognize their loved ones and have people take care of them. And so it's a huge fear, it's a huge concern. Now, Alzheimer's is a specific disease, right? It is not a normal part of the aging process. So apart from that, when we think about the effects that we think about aging and what it has on the mind, and we think about things that, people just aren't as mentally sharp. In fact, they lose their intelligence or they become dumb, they lose their memory. Well, none of these are really true. What we know from the science of neuroplasticity, the evidence is very clear that you can continue to train your brain and it can get better and it can get sharp, and hence the humongous explosion in brain game software and programs that are out there. But the cognitive element is something that they are very in tune with and very concerned about. And so a lot of programs are getting into doing this cognitive training along with the physical training, because they want to capitalize on that and they want to kind of satisfy the consumer's need to include this and to improve this as they get older. In fact, one of our colleagues, Martin Pisani, who's been in the fitness business for a very long time in many different senior leadership roles, has developed a new model called Activate. And Activate is a fitness model that not only trains people physically, but trains people mentally and cognitively as well, because again, these are two huge concerns of the population, and I just personally think it's probably going to be very successful. So we have the physical, we have the cognitive, we also have the emotional dimension. People are experiencing a lot of changes as they go through their 50s and 60s and 70s that affect them emotionally. One, they're thinking about their own longevity and their own mortality, and they're kind of coming to grips with that fact that, hey, I'm not going to be 20 forever, right? This body is getting older. I've got friends and colleagues that are now dying, right? Things are starting to change quite a bit. And so they're affected very emotionally by a lot of these changes that they're going through. And so we just need to understand kind of where they are from an emotional standpoint. And again, in order so that we can connect with them and kind of understand where they're coming from. Another dimension is the spiritual dimension. Now, we don't talk about this dimension too much in fitness, right? But it's very important for most people. The spiritual dimension is usually a very high priority for most people, however they might interpret that. But with this kind of group of boomers that are in their 50s and their 60s, and even the seniors that are in their 70s and beyond, for a lot of them, this idea of spiritual connection and growth is at the foremost of their thoughts. And when I think about our facility and the kind of the clients that we have, most of them are very active in church. They're volunteers, they teach Bible classes, they teach youth classes, they go on mission trips, they're out there kind of doing a lot of these things, very involved in church activities, okay? But we can kind of take that across the board and again look back to what's happening during the aging process, because historically we see an increase in spirituality or this focus on spirituality as people get older. Well, why is that? Well, again, a lot of it comes back to they're thinking about their own mortality. They're thinking about why have I been here, right? What kind of impact have I had? What has been my purpose for being on this earth? What is the impact that I'm going to have for future generations? They really start to think about their legacy, and that comes back to this whole idea of spirituality. So we want to be attuned to that. Now, that doesn't mean that you personally, have to start going to church or, find some religion to be involved with. What it does mean, however, is that you need to be very cognizant and aware that even if it's not a value for you, it's a value for a lot of them. And so you need to respect that. Another area that we want to focus on as part of these dimensions of wellness is the vocational. Now you might think, well, why are we talking about vocation when people are hitting retirement? Well, again, for most of them, they're not retiring. Now, their vocation might be changing. A lot of people are not retiring like you would formally consider it. Okay, that's kind of dwindling. We see people changing careers, changing how they're going to create income for their family, and some of them are moving to the things that they really wanted to do their whole life but never did, okay, because they were in a career, they were raising a family, they were putting bread on the table, right? They were paying bills. Now they don't have to do that anymore nearly as much, and so now they can explore the things that they want to do. One of my friends, Tom Matt, who runs the Boomer Rocks radio show, calls it the refirement zone instead of retirement, because so many people are really getting fired up about this stage of life and are not retiring like we normally think of it. So vocation still is a big part of who they are and what they're doing, even if it's starting to change and shift. That's okay. So these dimensions of wellness are all very important, and it all kind of leads into this last dimension, which is the social dimension. This group is very relational. Family relationships are very important, but also relationships with others around them. A sense of connectedness is also very important. And so understanding their need for social interaction might play into how you train people, right? This is one of the reasons why we do small group personal training, is because we want people to have that social connection and connectedness with one another. It's also why we run a lot of programs that give back to the community. We're very involved with helping our community because there's this social connection with our community and they want to give back. And so we want to involve them in ways that they can give back and get involved. And what's really interesting is that we have members who thank us for asking them for money to support a certain cause. They're like, oh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to give, right, to help, because that's something that I really want to do. So all these areas are very important. And so when you think about what does this mean for me as a trainer, what it means is that if you kind of understand this whole person wellness concept, and if you study a little bit more about what happens with aging and what's important in these different areas as someone gets older, it helps you to understand how to connect with these potential clients, right? How to communicate with them, how to position your fitness services to meet all these different needs, because it's not just about the physical needs. It's about living a fulfilled life, right? Making the next 50 years as good as or even better than the first 50 years. And so that goes way beyond the physical. That goes into all these other dimensions of wellness that make up a whole person. So I really want to encourage you to learn more about whole person wellness, focus on that, and utilize that in your marketing messages, your sales processes, and even in just your conversations with people on a daily basis. It will help you to get more clients, it will help you to retain current clients, and it will help you to generate referrals from your current clients, which we know is also a very vital part of our business. This is Dr. Cody Sipe. Thank you very much for tuning in.